In today's episode, we are dealing with the super important subject matter of raising dead men and restoring hope. I'm going to share with you really powerful tools, especially if you're the kind of man who is struggling with your life, struggling with your challenges, not sure whether you're going to make it through. Make sure you watch through to the end. I've got 3 powerful, actionable tools, things you can do to restore hope and get to those better days that you used to wish were ahead of you. Hi everybody, if you're new to the channel, my name is Andrew. I've had the privilege over a very long period of time helping individuals and families, helping men to recover hope, to build their lives, and to get out of their struggles and their challenges. And amazingly, the results speak for themselves. Lower divorce rates, lower mental health struggles, lower burnout rates, lower suicidal tendencies because of the work that I've had the privilege of doing. I know that I can help you. Why don't we get into today's episode now? Today we're talking about this incredibly important subject that I've titled Dead Men Walking, Raising Dead Men and Restoring Hope. I want to tell you the story that some of you are probably familiar with, and it comes from the American judicial system where in a time not so long ago, it was fairly commonplace for men and women to be given the death penalty for various crimes. Some people watching and listening to this would say, well, that's fair enough. Some people deserve it. I don't know. Maybe that's true. What I really want to get to in this story is to talk about the protocols and the procedures that would happen when people were given that sentence of being sentenced to death, usually death by electric chair. Generally, what would happen in that scenario is that man, let's take a man as an example in this situation, that man would spend the last 24 hours of his life in solitary confinement. He'd be given one last meal of his choosing. He'd be given one last opportunity to speak to loved ones. And in the closing hours before having to be walked to the electric chair, he would be given a countdown and a timer of how long he had left in his life. And then a time would come in the schedule where the prison wardens would go to collect the prisoner. And he would be shackled by the wrists, shackled by the ankles, and walked out of his jail cell into the corridor, a secluded pathway between his solitary confinement down to the place where his life would be taken from him either by electric chair or lethal injection. And as he would exit his jail cell, the wardens that were accompanying him on his walk, the last walk of his life, would call out as a matter of protocol, and the words that they would call out would go like this: dead man walking. And it was a statement to say that this man, although physically capable of walking down this corridor effectively, because of the sentence of death hanging over his life, he may as well have been dead already. It's a horrible scene, it's a horrible metaphor, and yet it's so powerful, pointing to what we see with millions upon millions of men in today's world. Because the truth is, right across the world, in all of our communities, very, very sadly, we are surrounded by millions and millions of dead men walking. They're in solitary confinement. They're trapped in a cell in their mind, in their emotions, in their circumstances, and they feel alone, they're struggling alone, they're battling alone, and they feel like the countdown clock is ticking on the remaining days and hours that they've got left. They get out of bed in the morning, they're going to a job that they hate, they're returning to a home where they're disconnected, they're driving on roads where they fight all the way to work and all the way home, and their life feels like a prison sentence. And as they go through their routine and go through their day, the sounds and the echoes of this proclamation are heard around their mind and around their life: dead men walking. The truth of the matter is, this situation is heartbreaking, that our young men, our middle-aged men, and our older men are reaching places of such despair and desperation that they've already made that proclamation about their own life, that they are nothing more than dead men walking. And we really have got to do more about this horrendous situation where our men are giving up, our men are tapping out, our men are disconnecting, And in the worst and most horrible circumstances, our men are taking their own lives at increasing rates every day, every week. We've got to do something to stop this slide. We've got to do something about raising dead men and restoring hope. That's what this episode is about today. That's what this whole channel is about raising dead men and restoring their hope. I see it everywhere. I talk to men of all ages, all situations. Men are battling with hopelessness. You see, the thing about hopelessness is that when you lose hope, when you run out of hope, when you feel like there are no more reasons to hope that tomorrow could be better than today, it's easy to give up. It's easy to say to yourself in your mind, what's the point? Why go on? Would they really miss me? Would anyone even know if I wasn't here? And maybe that's your self-talk today. Maybe that's your language. Maybe you're sitting in your bed before you go to sleep at night, before you've got to face it all again tomorrow, and you know that you've said those exact words to yourself today. I've got a message for you today, friend. I want you to realize that that experience of feeling like a dead man walking does not have to define you. Hope can come back to you. But we've got to talk about these things, that hopelessness is stalking our men in their millions. Men are facing pressures like never before. Pressures to be a provider and a protector in an environment like we have today, where cost of living is soaring, and pressures from work and pressures from family and the pressures of comparison, pressures to keep up, pressures to achieve the next goal. Men are suffering like an internal pressure cooker because of the circumstances and the context around them, and it's getting worse, and we need to do more to make it better. I see men and I talk to men of all backgrounds and all situations who are walking around with the pain and the heaviness of broken dreams. Maybe whereas they were a young man, maybe when they were a boy, they had incredible ideas of what their life might look like, things they would do, things they would achieve, but very early into middle age, they've discovered that those dreams no longer exist. We've got men all over our community that are walking around with broken dreams. We see men who are walking around with broken hearts, broken-hearted about the state of their life, sure, but broken-hearted about losing a love in their life. They're grieving the loss of parents. They're grieving the loss of a mate who took his own life. They're grieving the loss of a marriage that failed. They're grieving the separation from their children that they're not allowed to see anymore. Our men are walking around community, going to work, doing their routine, but like that prison situation and scenario, they're like a dead man walking. And we've got to do more to restore their hope. I see men everywhere with a loss of purpose, asking themselves hairy, scary questions like, what's the point? What does it all mean? Why am I doing all of this activity anyway? They feel like purpose and their North Star has been stolen from them. They're just a cog in the machine. They're just a unit in the system designed to do their little part, and it's killing men everywhere. We see men who are struggling with a loss of identity. Who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I here? And one of the greatest epidemics we have ever seen in the history of humankind, we are dealing with fatherlessness at an all-time high. We're seeing men of all ages and women and children, but I'm talking especially to the men today. Men everywhere who are struggling so hard with fatherlessness. Maybe their father was a bad man. Maybe their father was a negligent man. Maybe their father has gotten old and passed away and he's no longer around. Maybe something happened, a trauma, a crisis that caused separation in the family. And because of that fatherlessness, men who should know what they're about and what they're doing and why they're here are walking around alone and struggling and losing hope every single day. We have to do more to raise dead men and restore their hope. You know, some of you might think that because I'm in this situation in front of the camera and giving advice and offering wisdom that maybe I haven't struggled. I need to be honest with you and tell you that's not the case. I've had my own struggles in this regard. I know what it's like to wrestle with anxiety. I know what it's like to wrestle with depression. I know what it's like to wrestle with burnout and thoughts of giving up. As a matter of fact, just recently in the last several years, I had a very serious phase in my life where after several decades of very, very hard work, lots of pressure, lots of stress, I did reach a point where I just about tapped out and tipped over the edge. And I'll never forget the day as I was driving down my local main street in the town where I live and just going about my daily business, heading out of the office to get some lunch, and I found myself utterly paralyzed by anxiety and the depression that had been creeping up on me day by day. And I'll never forget standing beside my car, trying to make what in any ordinary situation was a very simple decision. Will I get a sandwich or will I get sushi for lunch? And I'll never forget this moment where in my brain, my literal physical brain anatomy, I felt something snap. And I remember going home to my wife that night and saying to her, something went wrong. And she said to me, what do you mean? I said, something snapped today. And she started to get worried and she said, what do you mean? I said, up here, something snapped. I felt a chain break. And the way I described it to her that day was I said, I know that I've had this darkness and this depression lurking around behind me, but it's always felt like it's been restrained, like it's been in control on a chain. People talk about depression being like a black dog. Here in Australia, we even have an organisation called the Black Dog Institute, helping people with mental health challenges. And I remember describing to my wife that day, saying, I felt the chain snap and the dog's loose and I don't know where it is and I can't get it under control. And I stood beside my car that day, and even talking about it is hard. I stood beside my car that day under so much anxiety and so much pressure that I gave up on my lunch decision. I drove home, I crawled into bed, pulled the covers over myself, because the only thing that I felt like I was in control of was the choice of falling asleep. And I remember falling asleep and thinking to myself, I hope it's a long, deep sleep. And I hope when I wake up, all of this darkness is gone. Well, unfortunately for me, as is the case for many of you, I did wake up and that darkness was not gone, it was still there. And even several days later, when I was due to get out of bed and go to work, and I was due on that particular morning to go and speak in front of a large crowd of people, and I remember contacting some of my colleagues, and I'd never done this in over 20 years of my career. I contacted my colleagues and I said to them, I can't do it today. I can't get out of bed. Which wasn't, I don't feel like getting out of bed, I physically couldn't get myself out of the bed. And these moments preceded a 3 to 6 month recovery period for me, where I had to realize everything had become too much. I'd gone over the edge a little bit, and I knew that if I didn't stop, if I didn't do something about this dead shell that I was walking around in, if I didn't do something, get some strategy, get some help to restore hope about where I was at in my life, I knew that I could slide even further down. Well, thankfully, I was surrounded by some loving family and friends and people who supported me, and I was able to put strategy for rest and recovery, investing in myself, feeding my soul, making sure that I was doing everything that was healthy and for my benefit, and I was able to recover strength, recover hope and stability, put anxiety, put depression and discouragement and a paralysis aside and get on with my life. But that moment and that season in my life marked me forever. And it gave me a taste of how real the struggle is for men everywhere who are dealing with this giant, this dark, heavy giant on a daily basis. You know, the lead up to this episode for me was I used to find myself fantasizing about a small life. I used to say to myself, if I could just escape, if I could just disappear, if I could just get away from all these pressures and these responsibilities, if I could just have my wife and my children and a small, simple life. What I didn't realize at the time was I was talking to myself about how much pain I was in. And maybe that's you watching this, listening to this today. Maybe you have these conversations with yourself. If I could just disappear, if I could just escape, if I could just get away from these pressures. And I get it. I understand. I know what you're going through. But friend, I want to encourage you. Escapism is not the answer. If you're talking to yourself like that, if you're feeling that way, escaping is not the answer. It's not going to recover your hope. But in this episode today, I want to give you a few thoughts, and I want to encourage you that there is hope, that it's not over. You are not finished. And I want to get into some of those practical things right now. I really want you to get that message. There is hope. I don't want you to give up, especially if you're facing that story like I just described about my own journey, where things are dark, things are heavy, it feels too much, it feels like you can't go on. I want you to get the message. I'm imagining you watching and listening now, and I'm looking right into your soul when I say the words, there is hope. You are not finished. Maybe you're watching this today and this is not specifically for you, but you've got a friend or a brother or a husband or a son or a work colleague, somebody that you know who is struggling really, really badly. Can I urge you, please send them this episode, reach out to them, encourage them. They need to hear the words, there is hope. You can recover. You are not finished. And we need you. We need what you bring. We need you here, and we need you to reach the potential of the best version of you. I want to take a moment to touch this very important issue in the middle of this whole episode. If you're contemplating giving up, maybe you've had a struggle already with suicidal thoughts, and sadly, in our world today, this is millions and millions of people, young and old. But if that's you, if you're a man today who is struggling with the idea of tapping out, giving up, escaping, disappearing, if your self-talk sounds like this, where you're saying, would they even miss me? Would they even care if I was gone? If that's you, please, I'm appealing to you. Don't give up. Don't go ahead with that thought of ending your life. We need you to get some help. There are so many people who need you to get through this struggle, people who care about you, people who love you, and men and women who need to hear your story of getting through your struggle. Because what you might not be able to see today, friend, is that there are people in your future who are going to walk down this dark road that you're on right now, and they need you to get through this so that one day you can be in the shoes I'm in and you can reach out and say, please don't give up. There's still hope. You're not finished. We need who you are and what you bring. We need you here. If that's you, reach out, talk to a friend, ask for help, call an organisation like Lifeline, Beyond Blue, Black Dog Institute, whatever is the relevant agency in your community. Don't do that dark thing that you're contemplating. Everybody will suffer as a result. I want to give you 3 very simple but very accessible and actionable things that you can do today if you feel like this man that I've described. If you feel like that prisoner in those shackles, in that prisoner's outfit, walking that lonely corridor, living in solitary confinement, feeling like your life is a jail cell just waiting for somebody to proclaim dead men walking. If that's you, I want you to lean in. I want you to listen to these 3 things that are so vital for you in this season of your life. Number 1, you need to find a brotherhood. There are other men who are facing what you're facing. There are other men who've gone through what you're facing. Like you heard me tell my story today. My life could have kept on going downhill. I could have gotten to an even darker place. I could have done something drastic that everybody would have suffered from. You need to find a brotherhood. Maybe it's in the workplace. Maybe it's in the local sports club. Maybe it's at your local church. Maybe it's your next door neighbour. Maybe it's an extended family member. Please start somewhere. Locate the brotherhood where you can just relate eye to eye, peer to peer with another man in the same stage of life as you. Share your struggles, share your lessons, share your wisdom, help one another to carry the load in this tough journey that we're on. Number 2, take care of your health. This is so underestimated, but so important. Everything in our perspective is worse when we're unfit and we're unhealthy. I want you to do what you can to start eating well, doing a little bit of exercise. I'm not suggesting for a moment that you go put your shoes on and go run a marathon, but maybe go outside once a day, walk around the block in the suburb where you live, get some fresh air, get some sunlight. All of the research and all of the case study material is mounting up millions and millions of articles pointing to the truth that fresh air, sunlight, simple exercise will do wonders for your chemical balance and your perspective and your relationship to anxiety and depression and that sense of hopelessness that's trying to get a hold on you. Invest in your physical health with diet, with sleep, with exercise and screen time. They're the big four: diet, exercise, sleep, screen time. Start small, do something, take care of your health. Number 3, reconnect with your dreams. What was it that used to get you out of bed? Who was it you wanted to become when you were leaving school? Maybe it's time to start reading those books again. Maybe it's time to start searching on YouTube about that subject. Maybe it's time to contemplate a little bit of learning again. You need to reconnect with your dreams. Why? Because if you've got a North Star compass point, a great big why that gets you out of bed, that helps you to keep on going, that gets you to overcome your challenges, if there's a reason on the other side of your struggle, it brings a momentum and an energy to keep on going, when without that sense of dreams and goals and your reason why, you might otherwise give up in your struggle. I know for me, in my season of life right now, I am passionate about helping people with their inner life health, sustainability, enjoying the journey more with getting their head straight, getting their emotions right in this YouTube channel. I'm here to help middle-aged men especially. It's the why that gets me out of bed. I'm recording this episode with you in mind. So whatever you do, get a hold of those 3 things. They will help you. Find a brotherhood, take care of your health, reconnect with your dreams. If you do those 3 things, they will help you. And of course, if you feel like you don't have any other choice, reach out to me. Put a comment below if you can. Reach out, go to my link tree and find all the other ways you can connect with me. Reach out to me. I will respond and I will do whatever I can to help you get the help that you need. I don't want you to give up. You're not a dead man walking. Hope can come back to you. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you in the next episode.